Hi guys, welcome back to Cool Movie Ratings, and today we're doing Underrated Movies Episode 2. This time it's going to be Jeepers Creepers, one of my favorite horror movies. We'll talk about it in a second, but I just want to address that it was about 2 years ago that I did the first episode, and I actually filmed a couple of them, but I didn't think they were great, so I didn't upload them, but I looked back a few days ago and I saw that underrated episodes, and I thought it was actually not a terrible review even 2 years later. And so I want to come back to the series and do more movies that are underrated. And so if you didn't watch that first one, go watch it. It's on The Village, another one of my favorite horror movies. And basically it has to be a movie less than 60 Rotten Tomatoes, and it has to be not very much talked about. Like, it's not a movie that people always talk about as like underrated. And so today, like I said, we're talking about Jeepers Creepers. Jeepers Creepers only has 46 on Rotten Tomatoes, which is absolutely crazy in my opinion, but it's not as bad as some other horror movies that I love. God, my dad showed me almost a year ago, and I never knew anything about it. I just remember him watching it once, way before I was into horror movies, and he said that I need to wait a long time to start watching these kinds of movies. And so I didn't even look anything up about this movie. I didn't know anything about it. And so right when I got into like horror movies, my dad said, you need to watch this one. So I watched it, and it blew my mind because of how like so weird, like how, I don't know how to describe it, how random it is. Kind of like a lot of other my favorite horror movies. Weird. Yeah, I guess weird's a good way to describe it, but it's a monster movie, and those are the kind of movies that gets me more. I'm not as much as a psychological horror. Like, The Shining scared me pretty bad, but it's not scarier than anything like Nightmare on Elm Street. That was my scariest, like the scariest movie I've ever seen until I watched Jeepers Creepers, and still the scariest movie I've ever seen. This movie just got me on so many parts. I think this movie, along with Jaws and some of those other ones, has some of the best suspense in any movie ever. That music, and this is a spoiler review, so if you haven't seen it, definitely go watch it. And one of the scenes I can remember is when you see the truck after it already like kind of went by them fast, but comes back up, and the music starts to build, and it's just one of the scariest scenes. And it's not even like the subject isn't that scary, but the music is just insane in that scene, and it's absolutely terrifying. This movie is absolutely terrifying in a bunch of different ways. The creeper is this whole alien that's super creepy, and that's one thing that I really like that I didn't know anything about this movie. At first, I kind of thought it was a man, and then once you see you kind of get a little glimpse at him when he's dropping the bodies down the pipe, which is, oh my god, everything about this movie absolutely terrified me, but I love it. It's absolutely crazy. So I was so shocked by this movie, and one of the shocking parts that I kind of mentioned was when Derry has his head and stuff down the pipe, and then when his like rats come up, his sister lets him go, and he falls down the pipe, and it's just you're like, because you've already realized that something's up, because they think that he just dropped a dead body down the well, or like I don't know if it's a well, but like a pipe. And so when he gets down there and there's someone alive under a tarp, that's when it really set off that this movie's going to freak me out really bad. And then when the guy dies, he says something like run or hide. And I'm like, that's the part that really lit my head, and I started getting like genuinely scared of this movie. And then when he walks around, he sees the hundreds of bodies around the cave, the creeper's lair, and I'm like, and that part was one of the scariest parts, and I just absolutely love this movie. I think the two main characters are absolutely amazing, Derry and Trish. I think it was a very good idea to make them brother and sister, not any romantic tension. And I do want to address one thing. The director has been known he's a real life creeper, and it's really gross, and I don't support the director, but I can't not love this movie just because the director is a creep. There's hundreds of other people who were involved in this movie who the movie shouldn't suffer because of one person who did something bad, so I can't hold that against the movie. But the director is a really bad guy in real life. Just wanted to mention that because I know that's pretty famous with this movie. Okay, back to the actual movie. Like I said, Derry and Trish are amazing characters and you feel for them. That's why I'll skip to the end, but that's why at the end you really, really feel for Derry when this might be one of the greatest endings in any horror movie or in any movie, because you think that they're going to survive, or you think that Derry's going to survive because he's such a likable main character. Well, him and Trish are such likable main characters, and then when you go into this old factory, or when Derry is taken by the creeper, you think he's going to escape, obviously, because that's how these movies go. But then when it's going through the factory, and then you hear him screaming, and you're like, oh no, it's not going here. And then you hear the song, which I'll talk about in a second, and then you fade in and it just goes up and his eyes are removed, and that's like that's the scariest scene in any movie ever to me, just because of how awesome and no music except that awesome Jeepers Creepers song is, which is the best use of any song in a movie, honestly, because it serves such a, like, it has an actual purpose, which is awesome that they revolved it around that. And that song is so creepy in its own way, and it just, you're like, and you can't believe what you're watching, and then it fades right after he puts his eye behind his body, like, the creeper puts his eye behind the body, showing that he ate the eyes, and now it's in him. I'm like, oh god. But absolutely awesome ending, probably one of my favorite endings in any movie ever. And like I said, the song is just crazy. The song is really creepy, and I'm surprised that they found such a good song to go with the atmosphere of this movie. But yeah, Jeepers Creepers is one of my favorite horror movies. If you have not seen it, please go watch it. And I hope you didn't watch this review and it didn't spoil it for you, because that ending deserves to not be spoiled. That's one of the craziest endings ever in any movie. So thank you guys so much for watching this Underrated Movies episode 2. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Bye, guys.